If you purchase the mantel clock option, your kit will contain these additional parts from which to construct a stand for your chronograph. I'd suggest first constructing your chronograph before assembling the stand, although you could construct the stand first. Firstly, familiarise yourself with the three parts that make up the base of the stand by arranging them in place as shown. Ensure that you have the larger plywood part at the bottom, the thicker pine part in the middle, and the smaller plywood part at the top, and that the holes all line up. Separate them on a tabletop and use the abrasive paper to sand off any rough edges or surfaces. Flip the thicker pine part over. The wood stain will need to be applied to the stand, so we don't want wood glue being squeezed out along the visible edges, as it would prevent the stain from covering properly. Turning over this part will help to place the glue well away from the edges. Once you have applied some glue around the centre, put on one of the vinyl gloves and smear the glue over the wood, working inwards away from the outside edges. Now turn the wood over and carefully line it up over the larger piece of plywood so the backs are in line and it's centred right and left. Check that there's an equal amount of plywood showing on the right and on the left. You can align the backs by gently pushing it against a flat surface. If any glue does seep out, remove it with a damp tissue or cloth. Without repositioning the two parts, rest something heavy on them whilst the glue dries to ensure good adhesion. Once the glue has set, get the final, smaller part of the stand's base. Again, flip it over so you have a guide to avoid getting any glue too near the edges. Apply some glue around its middle, and again, wearing one of the vinyl gloves, smear the glue around the centre and away from the edges. As before, align it in the middle from the right and left and keep the backs in line. Again, if any glue does seep out, remove it with a damp tissue or cloth. Then, without repositioning the two parts, place something heavy on them to ensure good adhesion. Whilst the glue is setting, use the abrasive paper to smooth off any rough edges from the two dowels. At one end of each dowel there's a hole on the side. These will be at the top, and it's a good idea to sand a nice radius around the dowels at this end. Once the glue on the base has set, it's time to fix on the two dowels. Get the two longer wood screws and a posi-drive screwdriver. Push one of the screws through the base from underneath and line it up with the centre hole in one of the dowels. Keeping the side hole at the other end of the dowel facing forwards, tighten the screw to fix the dowel onto the base, and check the side hole at the other end of the dowel still faces the front. Now screw on the other dowel in the same way. The next step is to fix on the decorative rings. Apply a small amount of wood glue on the underside of one of the larger decorative rings. Again, we want to avoid glue squeezing out as it'll stop the wood stain from sticking properly. Slide the ring, glue down, over one of the dowels and slide it onto the base. Repeat this with a smaller decorative ring and then glue the two remaining rings onto the other dowel. Now you need the two smaller wood screws from which your chronograph will hang, and the posi-drive screwdriver. Tighten each screw into the side hole at the top of each dowel so they face forward. Tighten them until a little of the thread is still visible. This should allow the keyhole cutouts on the back of your chronograph to slide over them. You can always loosen them a little if they are too tight. Next, it's time to apply the beeswax stain to your chronograph stand. Sit your stand on something to protect your work surface, and wearing the vinyl gloves, use a clean rag to apply the beeswax. After it has dried, buff it with a clean rag to achieve a good finish. Once the beeswax stain is dry, we need to fix the red felt to the base. You'll need the base, the laser cut red felt and some wood glue. Apply some wood glue to the underside of the base and smear it around whilst wearing one of the vinyl gloves. This time ensure it covers the base up to the edges so the felt is properly stuck down all around. If any wood glue does squeeze out, it can be wiped off with a damp cloth or tissue. Place the felt underneath the base with the two holes facing the back and lower the base onto the felt. Check that everything lines up. The felt can always be smoothed to reach the edges. Once you're happy it's lined up, rest the base on a flat surface whilst the glue dries. Now you've completed your base, offer up the two keyhole fittings on your chronograph with the screws at the tops of the dowels. Your chronograph should drop down onto them. If not, either loosen the top screws or twist the dowels so the screws line up with the keyhole cutouts. Congratulations! You've successfully completed your chronograph stand and can place your chronograph in pride of place on a mantelpiece, table or other flat surface.